Hi everybody, Tim Gustafson, and today I want to go over some blood work with you. Now, no one's accused me of being a fake natty, but I just think it would be interesting to share with you some recent results that I had done after competing in last month's INBF California Natural Muscle Mayhem. It's a natural bodybuilding show here in Sacramento, California. Now, I'm 44 years old and I've had blood work done before over the years, but believe it or not, I've never had my testosterone levels checked. So I went on to the website for Merrick Health, a company that Derek from More Plates, More Dates works with or runs. And it was neat because you can kind of select what tests you want to be done. So I did basically all the ones related to testosterone. And I've heard, as probably you have, that as a natural competitor, dieting down to a certain level of leanness will crush your testosterone. And I was just curious as to whether or not that was true for me. Where was I going to end up in all the various ranges for the various hormones? And one of the reasons I wanted to do this was because I felt pretty good all the way up to the show and in the week following the show. So I'm going to go over this, show you the numbers, and give you some takeaways, at least some that I had from this experience.
And here are the results. I want to preface this by saying I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I studied English and history in college and then went on to law school. You can leave it to folks like Coach Greg or maybe even Derek to interpret this and give you all the scientific data behind it. But I will just speak from my general understanding of what this test reveals about my hormone levels. And again, this was not a complete or a comprehensive panel, blood work panel. It was focused primarily just on testosterone and the related hormones and indicators, which I was curious about, having dieted for the 12 weeks leading up to the show and just seeing how that process and getting to a stage ready level of leanness impacted those particular hormones. Looking at my total testosterone, it is 276 nanograms per deciliter, which is toward the bottom of the normal range, so definitely very low. As I mentioned before, I haven't had my testosterone levels checked, so I don't have, I guess, what would be my normal level or a point of comparison. So I hope to have more tests done in the future when I'm not competing for a show or having completed a show, so I can get a better sense of how far my levels dropped in dieting down to take the stage. Now, while my total testosterone was within the normal range, admittedly at the bottom, my free testosterone is below the normal range at 6.2 picograms per milliliter. So I guess what this tells me is that, at least at this point, I will not be building any muscle anytime soon, as I basically have very little free testosterone to help facilitate that process. And the reason for that low free testosterone, well, it's because I have elevated levels of sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, which is, I understand it, a consequence of increasing levels of leanness, dieting down for a show. When your body gets that lean, the SHBG levels tend to go up. And mine are approaching the upper end of the normal range. One last thing I'll point out are my liver enzymes. You can see that they're elevated. Now, in the weeks leading up to the competition, I was lifting weights and doing cardio 7 days a week. So it was pretty strenuous exercise. And that can lead to those numbers going up. So nothing too surprising as far as I can tell. Dieting for a bodybuilding competition will affect your hormone levels, particularly testosterone. And it looks like that's what happened to me.
A few takeaways. 1, competing as a natty will tank your testosterone. 2, building muscle when you're down to 7%, 6% body fat, or when you're even leaner, will be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, as evidenced by the low levels of free testosterone and the increased levels of SHBG. 3, and this is going to vary from person to person, but just because you have low testosterone doesn't mean you will be feeling bad. I actually felt really good in the weeks leading up to the contest and in the week after the contest. I had good energy. I was still training every day. Generally, my mood was okay. I mean, yeah, I was hungry and maybe a little crabby, but that's more from the hunger and not from low testosterone. I wasn't feeling sluggish. Well, I can tell you this has been interesting for me. I hope it's been interesting for you. And I also hope that my levels go back up as I just start to incorporate more food into my diet and eat more, I guess, like a regular person and less like a competitor. Thanks a lot.